Hello, I'm Arun Gidu, and I've been working for the last 30 plus years with either computer systems or supply chain computer systems or as a supply chain practitioner. In this video, I will discuss how we can reduce inventory requirements and consequently reduce inventory wastage to support the same demand characteristics. First of all, we will recognize that aggregate forecast is more accurate than disaggregate forecast. For example, it is easier to be more accurate on forecasting total demand for a product at all warehouses combined than to be accurate on forecasting demand for that product at each warehouse separately. So now, how do we use this information to produce less and therefore reduce waste for the same output or demand? Let me illustrate this using clinical trials as an example. Now, first, let us briefly discuss what is a clinical trial. Before a drug is available for use by general population, it has to be proven to be safe and efficacious. This proof or lack thereof is generated by running a clinical trial where patients are given what is called investigational medicinal product or IMP. If the IMP is better able to cure the patient than other drugs or placebo and is deemed safe, then the drug may be introduced into the market. There are a few things I want to mention that are relevant to this discussion on aggregation and postponement and clinical trials. One, the amount of IMPs required can change. Patients, after enrolling and partaking doses of the IMP, may not want to continue or cannot continue until the end. So a new patient has to be enrolled and they have to partake the full course of the dosage. Also, enrolling patients is difficult. So it may take longer than anticipated, likely rendering the IMPs already produced to expire. Point number two, IMPs are expensive and more time consuming to produce because they have not undergone the rigorous process engineering to be mass produced. And number three, clinical trials can simultaneously take place in many countries, and therefore labeling and packaging requirements are different. Different countries have different language requirements at the minimum, and other requirements dictated by local regulatory bodies. Aggregation and postponement or late stage customization is a well known supply chain strategy to hold off building the final product until it's absolutely required. Here, we are aggregating the steps before the dotted line. In our example, which is encircled in red, we are aggregating steps up until and including manufacturing and holding off on labeling and distribution until required. So we are purchasing the raw materials and manufacturing to satisfy requirements for all sites, but we are holding off on labeling the materials for these sites and shipping them to the sites until we have firm demand. Remember, the labeling requirement for drug products are different for different countries, and many clinical trials are held in different countries simultaneously. After all, the sooner the clinical trials are completed, the sooner the drugs can be brought to market, and therefore sooner can the high cost of R&D be recouped. Also, remember, there are trade-offs here too. When we postpone labeling and distribution, then we need to have systems, labeling equipment, and carriers to quickly label and ship the IMPs so that they are available when needed. Sometimes these may not be possible or may not be worth the savings. So we need to be judicious in the use of this strategy, just like any other strategy. As I mentioned previously, IMPs are expensive and have long lead times since they have not gone through the process engineering that is typically done once the product is approved by the FDA and made ready for distribution to the general public. As per this McKinsey study benchmarking 10 pharma and biotech companies, 50% of IMP that is produced is wasted. According to the same study, a pharmaceutical company spending $10 billion a year on R&D could reap annual savings of more than 100 million by improving its waste performance to best in class. So now let us look at an Excel example of how and calculate the inventory reduction possible using aggregation under certain conditions. Now, if we reduce requirements and produce less, then we reduce wastage. So this is the Excel mockup of the savings that can be achieved using the aggregation and postponement strategy. So here we have six different sites. We will assume that they are all in different countries. We know the average number of patients expected to enroll at each site, and therefore the average amount of IMP required, with some caveats, which I will not go into details here. We also have an estimate of the minimum number of patients that may be enrolled at a site and a maximum number. We also know the estimate of the production lead time and its variance. We have a target service level of 97%, which is what the McKinsey study showed as the average for the 10 pharma and biotech companies that they surveyed. So that means we have required a dosage for 97% of the patients enrolled, even if the number of patients at a site are greater than the average expected at that site. So what conclusions can we draw here? We can save on safety stock by aggregating and postponing. Safety stock is what we produce over and above the requirements to take care of variability in demand and variability in production. So here, if we were to manufacture and stock the inventory after packaging and labeling at each of the sites, then the total number of total number of doses required for extra doses required will be here at site 1 for 56 patients, for site 2 28, and so on, for a total aggregate of 290. Whereas if we were to manufacture at one location and only package and label and ship it to the site when actually required, our aggregated safety stock is 244, which is a savings of 16%. Now, when we have very high level of service, which is 97%, safety stock can comprise 50% of all stock. So these 16% savings can really lead to significant amount of dollar savings. So aggregation and postponement is a known supply chain strategy to reduce inventory requirements and consequently reduce waste. I first came to know of this strategy through a case study of Benetton, the Italian fashion apparel maker, who manufactured in a very few locations, and the clothes that they made had no color or neutral gray color, and they only colored them before shipping to different markets based on demand. Others like Dell have also used the same strategy to maintain high availability while maintaining low inventories. In case of Dell, higher inventories could lead to products becoming outdated before they can be sold, and therefore can result in wastage. And of course, in case of pharmaceutical companies and clinical trials, higher inventories could lead to higher wastage because products can expire before they are able to be used. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.